120 seconds. 110 seconds. 100 seconds. 90 seconds. 80 seconds. 70 seconds. 60 seconds. 50 seconds. 40 seconds. 30 seconds. 20 seconds. 10 seconds.
'My name's J.C. McCauley.
I'm Nyesha McCauley, and you're watching AccessTV.org.
All right, time to get our talk on once again. At the beginning of a new week, we are in Studio 1A with the one and only Jay Small. Jonathan Small in the house. How you doing there, Jonathan?
Doing fine, Stan. It's a pleasure to be back here. Like I mentioned, look forward to it every week. Always try to get off to a good start, and this is a good way to get off to a good start.
Yeah, looks like the sun is shining at least. So you get rid of some of this rain and the humidity. Wow, what a weekend. Did you do anything? What'd you do this weekend?
Work Saturday, take care of business Saturday, unfortunately. Sunday, tried to lay back. Couldn't get into a groove yesterday because, you wanted to be outside. At least I wanted to be outside. And then it's starting to rain, then it stops, then it starts, then finally it stopped. But wanted to watch the Wimbledon finals, and I find out that's on cable. And so I missed that finals. I'm not as big a tennis fan as I used to be, but I still wanted to watch it. Novacek, I believe, was going for his 8th, I guess, Wimbledon championship. So I missed that. Baseball is always on, so that's not no big deal with baseball. And I can't get into no USFL football. That's not
just lacking. There's just something missing. You know what I think is missing?
What's that?
NFL productions.
Yeah.
Like they are the top. They're the cream of the crop at the top of the game in the production and the whole grandeur of how they package and deliver, and UFSL or whatever they are, they just don't have it.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, I think the USFL play the same theme music as the NFL when it come on Fox 61.
And the theme music is a whole lot more than the theme music. It's the production, the way the game is shot, the intensity, the directors, the camera people, all of that. There's a whole production team that turn that switch on and magic happens. And without them,
well, I think not only that, and that's a big part of it, but I think it's hard for people to get into football in the middle of the summertime. You think of football traditionally, it's autumn and winter. Summertime,
I don't know.
You don't think so?
We could argue that point. Nah, man. If the NFL football season started right now,
it would.
My wife would be in front of that TV until it went off.
But if you ask people, would they rather the NFL start in autumn after Labor Day than in summer, they would choose autumn. But
that's you would choose autumn. You're not people. You're Jonathan.
I think the majority of people, I think you're getting into a different mindset. I think baseball is kind of in the middle. The NFL doesn't really compete with baseball, so I can't even use that.
Different fan base.
Different fan base. But just the history of NFL has always been like the Super Bowl. If the Super Bowl was in October, you think that really wouldn't make a difference?
Well, the Super Bowl comes at the end of the season. We're not talking about moving the big game at the beginning of the season. I don't think it would matter. I think if you extended it to 26 weeks, was it 13 weeks?
No, it's actually 17.
17 weeks.
It's 17 games.
All right, 17 games. So if you extended it to 34 games, like if football came on every weekend, I believe people would watch it every weekend. But the athletes would wear out.
Well, they are tweaking with the NFL. It used to just be Sunday and Monday nights. Now it's on Thursday. Sunday night is the number one watch sporting event. Could be the number one television ranking of all the shows, but definitely the number one sporting event. So Sunday night football is really popular.
Right, it's Sunday night. Right, everybody's up at the grand cathedrals. Right, the cathedrals.
Right. Yeah. Well, Thursday is nice too. Thursday is not as popular as Sunday. And Monday night used to be way more popular. It's kind of dwindling down, but it's still okay. ABC used to carry Monday night football. Now it's ESPN. So that's the thing. And speaking of ESPN, they in major trouble from what I'm hearing about that. That's a whole nother topic within itself. But they're laying off a lot of employees, a lot of staff. Revenue, I don't know if it's dropping because they're backed by Disney.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I think ESPN is one of the legacy places that was built on the whole cable model.
It was.
And so, ESPN was part of the package. And so part of that package meant you were cemented into every subscriber. So you got money for every subscriber. Now that people have cut the cable, ESPN's not getting the money they were getting.
Right.
So Disney have to carry them. Disney don't carry anybody.
And they got deep pockets, obviously, Disney, but
that's why they have deep pockets. They don't carry.
They don't carry.
They don't carry your own weight, we cut you off.
Yes. Well, I hope you like boxing. I don't know if boxing is your sport or your father's sport.
I have friends in boxing, so I do enjoy boxing. I've covered several boxing matches here in the Hartford area. Sammy Vega, Golden Glove. You've got Moochie, and company. So yes, I like boxing. Boxing is you put it on the line.
Right.
There's no teammate. It's just you. It's a real sport.
Right.
But let us not get into that. Let you and your guest get into that.
Okay. Well, this morning on Morning Talk Live with Jay Stan McCauley Talk Show, we have a very popular boxer, professional boxer. At one point, he was involved in one of the biggest, largest sporting events in boxing history at the time, and his popularity rose at such a very quick period. He was on gear to be probably the next heavyweight champion. It just didn't work out, but I'll let him explain all about that. This morning on Morning Talk Live with Jay Stan McCauley Talk Show, we have the two-time heavyweight champion Contender, top-ranked boxing ranking in the heavyweight division, no other than gentleman Gerry Cooney. Good morning, Gerry. How are you doing?
Hey, good morning, Jonathan and Stan. Listen, you got to be kidding me. What about basketball, soccer, and you didn't even mention boxing, for crying out loud?
Yeah.
We have some great sports. We can't just fill up with football all the time. Like you said, they wear themselves out, and people wouldn't watch that all year long. I mean, come on. It's a great sport, great athletes. You know, there's a lot going on in football. These guys are getting hurt pretty bad too. So, yeah, great sport. Boxing is great. You know, listen, Stan, you got to come over to my side once in a while over here now, bro. Pay attention to these big fights that are coming up very shortly. We got a big fight. Terrence Crawford is coming up against Errol Spence, which is a great welterweight matchup, and hundreds of other great fights.
Well, Gerry, obviously nobody knows boxing better than yourself. And before we get into our main topic of discussion, could you kind of let people know a little bit about yourself and background briefly?
Listen, Gerry Cooney, I had a great career. I did a lot of fun things. I had a great fights. I won some. I won most of them. I lost 3 big fights. I lost to George Foreman. I lost to Larry Holmes and to Michael Spinks. Obviously, I hope that the listeners are aware that I got caught up after I knocked out Kenny Norton in 1 round in the Garden. I don't know what happened, but I started to drink and play, and, you know, that music roared. And by the way, I want to take my hat off to that band you have there, man. Man, that was beautiful. That's beautiful. I can listen to that. I can listen to that every day. And I got distracted, and I started to party, and I traveled and forgot about getting up at 6 in the morning and going running. And, you know, I believe if I had fought Holmes the night that I fought Norton, I was in the best shape of my life. I think I could have beat him that night, but he is and was a great champion. He fought everybody. We just got back from Europe not too long ago. We were on a tour for our 40th anniversary, and we got to watch his highlight films, and, you know, my highlight films as well. But I watched all his highlight films. He fought everybody. And Larry Holmes and I, there was a big racial nonsense came up, but, you know, Larry Holmes and I are best of friends. We get together, we make appearances together, we tell the people what's really going on in life, and it's about loving each other and turning that page on those resentments and moving forward.
Well, Gerry, obviously you already jumped into the main climax of your boxing career. Obviously, the fight against Ken Norton, you dominated in 1 round. And people might have been under the impression at that time that Larry Holmes 3 years prior went the distance with Ken Norton. Obviously, Ken Norton might have been in a more of his, I wouldn't say even then he was in his prime, but he was certainly probably not on a decline. And I don't want to take anything away from what you did to him, obviously, because you destroyed him in 1 round. But people might have been under the impression that Larry Holmes had to struggle against Ken Norton and went 15 rounds, and here it is 3 years later, you knocked Ken Norton out in 1 round. So the whole hype was you were ready to become the next heavyweight champion. But there's a lot that went into that particular fight. Some people might have said you should have had a couple other fights after leading before the Holmes fight. That might have been a mistake. But in your opinion, what kind of led up to the hype and the popularity that you was experiencing in that period of time?
Well, I want to just tell you this background story a little bit. So I came to boxing. I wanted to be a fighter. I wanted to fight for the title. Don King owned mostly every heavyweight there was except me. So as I was climbing up the ladder, he didn't want me to get the experience I needed by fighting some of those other top guys, so that when I got a chance with him, I could have had a better opportunity. But that being said, I went in there inexperienced. I had a bunch of knockouts. Like you said, these guys Norton was 3 years past his prime, but he did take the fight. He was in great shape. And, when you're a professional, when the bell rings, you want to let the guy feel your power. And when I did, I buckled him a little bit. And then you say, well, let me take 30 seconds and see if I can open up on this guy. And I spun him into the corner. And 54 seconds into that first round, the referee had to jump in and stop that fight. And thank God he did, because I don't think Norton would have lived as long as he did had he didn't. But that being said, at that point, it really got serious. And, everybody wanted to be nice to Gerry Cooney and this and that. And I partied, traveled, did all these things that was not really great for boxing. And but anyway, that being said, we went 13 rounds. The greatest part about it was when Larry Holmes and I got into the ring. All that racing, there was FBI agents in Las Vegas with snipers on the roof, and the racism or wherever it was coming from. It wasn't coming from myself. It wasn't coming from Larry Holmes. It was coming, I believe, from one of the guys promoting the fight to help raise more money for the fight. And Larry Holmes and I got in the center of the ring. He said, let's have a good fight. And that's what heavyweight boxing is really about. And and then, a few months after, I got into a depression, losing that fight. And I ran into Larry Holmes in Atlantic City. And we sat down and talked for an hour. He understood, we understood each other, and we kind of worked through it and moved on. So it's been a great experience being in that fight with Larry Holmes, being in the fight game, and those experiences I went through. It should have never been. And I want to tell you guys a funny story, because they used to call me the White Hope, right?
Yeah.
So what I found out was that my grandfather's mother was African American.
Oh, yeah?
So the whole thing was a lie.
Uh-huh.
How do you like that, bro?
I never knew that.
That's a true story.
Uh-huh.
That's so true.
But
So anyway,
but Jerry, getting back to the fight, now I want to clarify something. Was it officially recorded that you would have been ahead on points going into the 13th round of the Larry Holmes fight, hadn't you not been deducted for low blows? I think 3 points was deducted from you. So was the unofficial or the scoring card indicating that if you didn't have those low blows and those points deductions, you was ahead on points, or was Larry Holmes ahead on points going into the 13th round?
well, listen. So here's the story about those low blows. Is that when I was coming in to get to the body, listen, Holmes was an old pro. He would grab my head and pull it down to avoid getting hit in the belly. But the problem was they were hitting him low, because he was pulling my head down. The referee was Mills Lane was a great referee, but that night he was not in position, and he just saw me hitting Holmes low. But Holmes was pulling my head down to protect me from hitting him, to protect him from me hitting him in the belly. And when I had those 3 points taken away, now listen, I may have been ahead, but Larry Holmes was a fighter from 12 to 15 rounds. That's what a real champion is. And obviously, it was 120 degrees that night. And obviously, I was getting tired. It was hot. I had no experience. And when I had those 3 points taken away, I felt like, oh, man, I can't win no more. And listen, he turned it up.
So you went in,
champion.
Jerry, you went into the round 13 realizing that you was behind on points.
I felt like I couldn't win.
Did you try to actually knock Larry Holmes out? Did you feel like you had to have a knockout in order for you to win the fight going into the 13th?
I did, but in the moment, I was like, I just felt like it was out. It doesn't matter. The point is, he was a great champ. He was a better guy than me that night. He was just a better fighter, more experienced, more looks. He understood the game a lot better than me. I was a puncher my whole life. I needed more experience with rounds. I needed to go 8, 10, 12 rounds, 15 rounds more often, but I didn't get the experience to fight those guys that would have pushed me, that gave me those experiences. I didn't have that going into the fight, but he was still worried about my left hook and talked about it. That one of the rounds, I think it was the fifth round, I hit him in the body shot. He said, thank God it was at the bell, because if it hadn't been, it might have went the other way.
Exactly. Well, you was known as one of the hardest hitters. I mean, people compare you probably to Ernie Shavers. I think Larry Holmes said Ernie Shavers he felt was the hardest hitter he's ever faced, or the hardest puncher. But you had a reputation of being a very hard hitter, and a very 6'6", so a very big fellow. But let's go back a little bit. Your first national.
Hold on a second, Jonathan. Listen, Jonathan and Stan. Here's what I wished. I could have been in the studio where you guys said. I could have showed you. I could have gave you one of them shots.
Oh no, we don't. We don't need. I believe you still could knock us out even at this stage and everything. But Gerry, let's go back to your first nationally televised fight on CBS with Jimmy Young.
Wow.
Was that a big turning point for your career? Because I guess the fight was stopped going into the 14th or the 15th round because of the bloody eye that Jimmy Young had?
No, it was the fourth round, and he couldn't come out for that round. What happened was Jimmy Young had won 9 fights in a row, and he was my first television fight, and nobody looked good with him. He beat everybody. He only got stopped once by Ernie Shavers, who caught him cold early in the fight. But he was a good, durable, tough guy, smart. And he was so looking for my left hook that I turned the hook into an uppercut and caught him between the eyes and split his eye, a big cut above his head. And once, you're a professional fighter, when you catch someone like that who's having trouble seeing, you open up and you go after him. And that's what happened. And I was relentless on him. And finally, he just, the referee kept looking at it. And then the cut was so bad, that the referee stopped the fight, so he couldn't come out for the fourth round.
Right. So again, that's your first nationalized televised fight, and your popularity at this point is really growing, because already people are saying, I don't know if you was the number 1 ranked contender after that fight, but I think shortly after you would become the number 1 ranked contender in the WBA, and you had some other fights. But was there anybody that really gave you a test before Larry Holmes? Did you have any real serious challenge of a tough fight before?
I had a lot of guys in the gym. We were bringing guys in all the time for training to help push me, to make me stronger, to make me more durable. But, obviously I could not get those guys in the ring, not because they didn't want to fight me. It was because King kept them from me, in my opinion. And I'm going to tell you this also. My management, Rappaport and Jones, they also wanted to make that big payday. They didn't want to risk losing that payday. So in some senses, that's where we went wrong. That's what happened. That's the story. That I was a young kid, grew up in a rough household, and I just sat in the back and let them do what they were doing. And I didn't have a voice in it. I was a young kid, and I didn't get a chance to develop more so with endurance and ability by getting a couple of other fights, but it was a big fight. It was a big money fight, and they didn't want to, miss out on that, and I regret that. I don't believe that should have happened, but it is what it is. And it was a great night. I got stopped in the 13th round. And today we're great friends.
But why? I mean, I don't know if asking you was a fair question, but it seemed like to me you was already declared the winner to some degree, because your name was announced last when the champion name usually, so I guess, supposed to be last. I mean, supposed to be announced last.
It was all games. It was all games that my management team, I had nothing I didn't know anything about that. And King, they were playing games with each other because they didn't get along. So they were trying to jockey for this and jockey for that. It didn't mean anything. The bell rang. Once the bell rang, you got to fight. And that's really, I didn't even know any of that stuff was going on.
So you didn't buy into all of the hype. I mean, you
No,
wasn't
come on.
overconfident going into this fight. You kind
Overconfident? No, I was fighting Larry Holmes.
okay.
One of the greatest listen, on my radio show, we broke down the heavyweight division from Jack Johnson up. And it was Muhammad Ali won, Lennox Lewis and Larry Holmes tied for second, or 2 and 3 or something like that. So that's what a great fighter he was. And I didn't get caught up in any. Listen, I had 4 or 5 guys I went to school with. We were in Palm Springs. We were in Vegas. We were living the life, training for this heavyweight championship fight, eating lobster tail and turtle soup. I mean, listen, it was a great experience for me. I only wished I had more fights, more experience in that way, so I could have put on a better fight. I could have fought back and challenged a little bit better.
Well, Gerry, your next big loss would be against Michael Spinks in 5 rounds. So what kind of went wrong in that fight? Because people don't really remember that fight as much as they remember the Larry Holmes fight. But obviously, Michael Spinks was a top heavyweight champion.
Michael Spinks, I beat him on any day of my life if I'm healthy. But obviously, the fight was on, it was off, it was on, it was off. I didn't know if I was coming or going. There was so many times it was on and off. And I kind of drifted away. I kind of lost interest and started to party and play around and drink. And I, unfortunately, going into that fight, I was not in the best of shape. And because I didn't really believe, it was like the boxing game. It's not like, one fight's number 2, or in football, or as Stan was talking about, I love football too. Like, you go to the quarters and the top 8 teams played in the semis and the finals for the Super Bowl. It's not like that in boxing. Boxing, it's games. They manipulate. The managements, the promoters, all these people are playing games. So you just never know. As a fighter, you're the last guy on the totem pole to be able to get what's done. So anyway, I wasn't in any shape that night. It was the only fight that I really feel embarrassed about, because I was drinking and leading up into the fight. And listen, Michael Spinks is a great guy. He's a very quiet man. I see him around at a lot of the events. I love him as a fighter. He was a great champion. He was a gold medal winner with his brother Leon. Did so many great things. But realistically, in my prime, I eat Michael Spinks for breakfast.
Stan, let me bring you into this question. I don't know if you paid attention.
No football.
No. It's gonna be about boxing.
I'm just kidding.
Stan, he mentioned Dennis Rappaport. Is this the same Dennis Rappaport that's from Connecticut? That's you don't know?
I don't know.
No, he's from New York.
He's from New York, but I thought he had some type of businesses in Connecticut.
He might be thinking of Miles Rappaport.
Miles Rappaport.
He's a politician.
No, he's a fight guy for a while. He was in the game. 2 young real estate guys, him and Mike Jones, and obviously, I grew up in a household. I left the house when I was 17, and I didn't have any experience on how to pick the best guy for me. Now, as it turned out, I made a lot of money. I'm visible today. I haven't been out of the game for 40 years. I still enjoy people. I still get to tell the stories. I still get to play Gerry Cooney, the fighter, but I also enjoy coming home, and my wife has the garbage by the back door, and I play Gerry Cooney, the husband. I love that guy too.
Right.
And I'm in the game. I do a lot of work with kids that are fighters coming up. I tell them, how to, maneuver through this business and in the easiest of fashions to get in shape and understand that it's going to go fast, and to pay attention and save your money, put it away.
Stan, you have any questions or comments you want to ask Gerry Cooney while we're here?
No, it's just fascinating listening and the context around, it's like being behind the scenes of what's really going on. People see the fight, they see the action, and they caught up in what they're looking at, but there's a whole drama world going on in the background, and it's interesting to hear about how the athlete in the ring is the meal ticket for everyone, but they're the last to know and often exploited.
Yes, yes.
So
That's the
it's
truth. That is so
you
true, and that we really, it's changed. It's a lot better now. We got great fighters today that are becoming more successful. See, in the old days, about I don't know, 99% of fighters ended up broke. And today is a different. It's different. People are taking care of the fights. You got so many great fighters from the lightweight, the welterweight, the middleweight. You got the heavyweight division is fantastic, and the guys are being managed much better.
But overall, hasn't boxing changed the way it's being broadcast? Because you used to always have on Saturdays the fight of the week or the boxing fights, CBS. I know ESPN probably still carries boxing.
Oh, ABC too. It was
ABC.
always free TV. It was on
Right.
free TV, but it's so expensive today that it's going to, ESPN puts free fights on, but there's ESPN Plus when there's big fights. You do have pay-per-view. Showtime puts on fights. You have the Zone. You have, obviously Bob Arum is connected with ESPN, so they're doing a great job. Yeah, it's cost people money. So, what do you do? So instead of watching free TV, you bring 10 friends over, and everybody puts $5 in, and you get to watch the great fights.
But Jerry, I hate to even say this, but I don't even know who's the heavyweight champion in boxing is. I mean, I don't pay much attention as I used to be, but it used to be a time, whether you were a boxing fan or not, everybody knew who the heavyweight champion would be. But if you ask people today, who's the world heavyweight boxing champion, what is the WBA, WBC, IBF, I don't think it's drawing that national attention that people realize who's the champion for the heavyweight division consists of. So I don't know if that's a good thing or just the way things have changed, but I can't.
It's not a good thing, Jonathan. But listen, let me tell you. So what happened was the boxers were getting raped and robbed so bad in the fight game from management and promoters that people drifted away. They didn't want their children watching those kind of experiences where at the end of the career, the fighters were shot, broke, all kinds of problems from marital, financial, work, didn't know how to work jobs. So there was so many problems that most of the hardcore fans stayed at the game. But the fans that would come in outside to watch these fights, they drifted away because they didn't want their families seeing the rapings and the robbings that were going on. But in today's time, it's got a lot better. And I tell people, put on, boxing scene or ESPN boxing on your front page of your computer or on your phone and follow it and look at some of the stories that are being told about the upcoming fights and get back into it because it's great with talent. Boxing is great today, but people walked away because the fighters were getting a bad shake, and now it's turning around. There's a lot of money out there. The Zone is making big fights. Top Rank is in there with ESPN. You got Showtime. You got just a lot of good guys that are putting on great fights that we're seeing. And also, listen, don't go crazy. The women, are great in the game today. I didn't think they were going to come along so fast, but we saw Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano in the Garden. It sold out. And it was a great fight from beginning to end. It was like watching Ali and Frazier.
Yeah.
So we have to get back to, paying attention to the news. We need to put it on a computer page and read a couple of stories and then follow them, and you'll dive right back into it. Listen, come on, boxing, Sirius XM channel 156 every Monday, every Friday from 12 to 2. You'll learn all about the game, upcoming fights, what's going to come up in the future, and it's a great world right now. So obviously, it needs some cleaning up, and I think it's there. We just have to pay attention.
Well, Jerry, is Don King and Bob Arum the two top boxing promoters? Or
No. I mean, today Bob Arum is been in the game for, I can't tell you, 55 years, doing great boxing. Don King, he listen, I don't care what they say. He brought boxing back. I agree, but right now he's out of the game. He's got a couple of guys. He's got Adrian Broner, who's not really a legitimate guy anymore. He was a great fighter, but he moved up and he wanted to become a rapper and all these different things. So he's he didn't stay focused.
Mm-hmm.
And in the fight game, everything's about split second timing. And you go to become a rapper, you do something else, you lose that split timing and you catch shots and you can't afford it in the fight game. So Don King is really outside. He's not the guys that are, the Zone is a phenomenal company. Obviously it's pay. You got to pay for it. It's I don't know, 12-month. I don't even know what the price is. You got ESPN, Bob Arum. You got Lou DiBella. You got a lot of great guys.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, it has kind of drifted away from ABC, CBS, NBC, and people lost touch with it because of that. But it's good and it's big and it's got some great fights coming up.
Gerry, if you don't mind me asking you this question,
Uh-oh.
the $10 million that you made, how much did you really see of the $10 million after all of it's been?
I still got it.
You still got your $10 million?
Got it. Actually, obviously, a third goes to your management.
Uh-huh.
You make a deal with your trainer. You got to pay Uncle Sam and all those things. Said and done. Listen, I still have a great life. I made a lot of money in the Holmes fight. It wasn't 10, it was $8.5 million it came out to be.
Uh-huh.
And obviously you could break it down, but you get a good financial team. You protect your money. I was never really a big spender. I got biggest thing I ever did was I bought a place in Florida. I had a home in California, but listen, I got 3 great kids. I love them. I get to tell them that every day. I got a great wife. I can't wait to go to bed with tonight and every night. And I'm living the dream, and I'm helping people become better off. I do a lot of charity work. I work with young kids, troubled kids, and teach them about self-esteem and confidence and joy and making a plan and getting help. All those things that I was not afforded growing up. I went from school to boxing. I didn't have any opportunity of any other options, you know what I mean? And today children have to become aware that there are a lot of options out there and you got to follow your dreams. And if you don't know what they are, talk to somebody. Pay attention.
Well, Gerry, obviously you grew up in New York, or some part of New York is where you grew up.
I grew up in Long Island. Right now, I'm in the witness protection program. I could tell you, but I'd have to kill you.
Okay. All right.
No, I'm in New Jersey. I live in New Jersey right now.
Right.
For about 25 years.
So again, keep bringing back this Larry Holmes fight because your popularity was skyrocketing.
I love him. Listen, we made each other. I shouldn't even say that. He was a great world champion. Together, we had the greatest time. And we made people pay attention to boxing there for that short period. Now, in today's time, you look back, there would have been a Holmes Cooney too. And what I learned from him in that first fight, taking it into the second fight, obviously we'll never find out. But he was a great champion. I love Larry Holmes. I love his whole family. I was in Easton, Pennsylvania yesterday. He does a golf outing every this time of year. I can't come to it anymore because I do a radio show, and so I have to stay home. But he has a meet and greet on Sundays, and all the great athletes. Listen, Stan, you should have been there. A lot of football players, a lot of great Otis Anderson, Bruce Harper, tons of guys are there today. Were there last night, and today they're out hacking around the golf club,
right,
trying to get some good shots.
One more fight that you lost, your 3 losses, the George Foreman fight. What that was in 1990. What went wrong?
Remember.
Something in that era. But what went wrong in that particular fight?
Nothing went wrong in that fight. Listen, I left boxing when I fought Michael Spinks. I wound up putting down the drink April 1988. That was a big problem for me. That ruled my life for a few years, and and then I was promoting. I was promoting some fights, and I was doing fights with George Foreman, and he was doing that fighting twice a month, and he was trying to get back and let people know he was back. And he did. He went and knocked out Michael Mora and won the heavyweight championship again in his late life.
Mm-hmm.
So during that time, he came to me and said, Jerry, why don't we fight? And I thought to myself, well, it was it was going to be 88. I put down the drink.
Mm-hmm.
I figured I never did it really sober. And I thought, well, you know what? Let me think about it. And I thought about it. I thought, yeah, I'm going to get in shape, taking care of myself. And obviously, George Foreman's a very big puncher.
Mm-hmm.
I got in great shape. And I got hit with I heard him. Obviously, he talked about, I don't know if you heard the story, but he said that everybody in their lives, they get 3 big fighters. And Gerry Cooney was the hardest puncher that ever hit me.
Mm-hmm.
But he was a durable guy. And I got stopped in the second round. And he went on, knocked out Michael Mora. And I turned the page and got on with my life and got married and helped kids and just have a great life.
Well, that's the key, because your life has really been put back on track. You mentioned the drinking and somewhat of a depressionary stage after the Larry Holmes fight, that you kind of fell down, but you found a way to get yourself back up, and you're trying to give back to other fighters in other different ways now, because I guess you have the life experience of knowing what you have to go through as a professional boxer, particularly when things don't always work out. And even some of
which they don't,
mm-hmm.
which they don't always work out.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, we have to, look at the real picture. We know that in time, my timing slows down. I still have my power, but I can't make the punch because my timing gets slower. So, this happens to all athletes,
Mm-hmm.
football, baseball, soccer. The day comes when it doesn't work anymore. The problem with the fight game is that you come in the fight game, you think, well, I'm going to become a champion. Then you become, you want to become a contender. You can't do that. Then you become a sparring partner. Then you become an opponent.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you start taking shots that have lasting effects on you. And you need to not let that happen. And so we need to help these guys make that transition from the fight game, which has been great to all of us.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't want them to end up being sparring partners to these young guys who are giving them beating every day. So you want to help them make the transition as easy as possible into the next period of their lives. And that was very fortunate for me that I got an opportunity to do that kind of work with a lot of fighters. And now obviously it's a big chore, and you have to, fighters learn, the managers take care, they pay their bills, they do all their things. So the fighter becomes dependent upon them.
Mm-hmm.
And then the fighter becomes 30 and he says, what do I do? I don't know what to do with myself.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a big, long process starts. So we need help for those guys, and that's what we try and do.
So some of the different organizations that you are involved with, could you name some of the organizations?
Well, obviously, I had a great organization named FIST.
Mm-hmm.
We work with Friends of Iran Bartlett. There's a lot of Ring 8. There's a lot of different organizations. But I had an organization named FIST, Fighters Institute for Support and Training, but it got to be so demanding. And these guys, you got to figure they need money to pay their rent. They need, therapy for them, their wives and their kids. They need to learn how to get work ready. They need to find jobs. It was like one thing after another. And it was hard because they just wanted people to take care of them.
Mm-hmm.
And, you can teach a guy to fish, but you can't just keep giving him a fish every day. And that was where we had some problems. And obviously it was very demanding, and we helped a lot of people. And, what really needs to get done in the fight game, as we talked about this many times, is that if they took $1 from every ticket of every fight that takes place around the country or in the world, and you put that into a foundation, people could get schooling, education, find out what they really want to do, and get back into the workforce. But it's just not happening because fighters are independent contractors. So, they pay for your insurance when you're fighting, and then you're on your own.
Mm-hmm.
So there's all kinds of headaches with the wives, and they don't got no money for the kids, to feed the kids, to take the kids to the doctor. And it's a terrible way the game is right now.
Well, it's almost like what you say in boxing, like other sports. Sometimes, former players they become coaches, but whether it's a head coach or just a assistant coach. So in boxing, can you make the transition like to become a manager, like a trainer? Is there other occupations that you can do after you finish as a professional boxer that could still
Yeah,
keep you in the boxing field of sports?
Jonathan, I like that question a lot. And you know, the percentage of guys that make it in the game,
Mm-hmm.
you know, is like small compared to 100% of all the fighters.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I don't know, 5%. They become successful. They make a lot of money. They can take care of themselves. They can find financial helpers and people to help manage their money. But the majority of fighters, they work month to month.
Mm-hmm.
They have to pay their gym due fees. They gotta find a way. They gotta work and train, and it's a really hard story. And for most fighters, and most people leave the game bitter
Mm-hmm.
because the game turned its back on them. Here's the guys that brought uh, during during the war, Joe Louis and Max Schmeling fought when in some of the most difficult times. Joe Louis held up this country
Mm-hmm.
and knocking out Max Schmeling. They became good friends afterwards. But you understand, this is what needs to get done. And unfortunately, you know, uh, it's a cold world out there. It's a jungle out. What did Tarzan said? He swung in off the vine and he was wiped his brow. And Jane said, "What's the matter with you?" He said, "It's a jungle out there, and we got to learn how to maneuver ourselves in there and put that money away and put that money away." I always knew that the rainy day was coming,
Mm-hmm.
and I put my money away and I put it away so that when time came for me to get out, eventually I wasn't struggling with that area, which most people do in the fight game. Hey, listen, most people in sports do.
Mm-hmm.
They don't save their money. You think it's never going to end, but that day does come.
Well, also you got out of boxing without any serious damage. You hear about Muhammad Ali and other fighters who stayed in the game or took a lot of damage, and they were really never the same. But it seemed like to me you kind of got out of boxing pretty much healthy, and that's still a
Well,
blessing within itself.
that's a interesting statement too. And so what happened is Ali was a guy that loved boxing. He loved boxing so much. He loved the attention. He was bigger than boxing. He was bigger. He was the most famous man on this planet
Mm-hmm.
for a really long time. And what happened was he liked the attention so much that he went back in. I remember him fighting Foreman. I was praying, "Muhammad, please don't take this fight. Please don't take that fight." And he took it and he found a way to beat him. But he was also absorbing punishment. As the body started to slow down, you start taking shots. Your body can't absorb anymore. You can't. And so he had, and a lot of fighters turn out that way. There's no place to go. They don't find any peace, but in the gym and in the arena. See, when you were in at the garden, and someone knocks on the door and they open the door, they say, "Cooney, you're next." And you walk down that empty corridor and your life is passing before you. And when you open to the arena and the sound, the roar of the crowd, you become magical.
Mm-hmm.
That's when the magic starts. And that is very addicting. And you get in the ring and you perform at a different kind of a level because of that for a long time. But there is a time when that stops. And if you start absorbing those shots, he didn't listen to the people that loved him. They couldn't get him out of the ring, and so yeah, so he's a special story, and it's sad how it ended for him because he was just so great. He I watched him walk down the airport. He looked like he had a glow about him walking off. He used to like tell these jokes about lifting himself off the ground, and he did it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so he was a great guy. Ali was the guy, and then you got George Foreman, still a great man. You have Ali. You have a lot of great fighters in their own right, but it's a hard game, and you have to really pay attention to your corner, and and pay attention to yourself and don't keep going back in there when you're going to struggle. And unfortunately for me, I couldn't get some of those big fights I needed to gain the experience, and I didn't absorb that punishment as much. Plus, I was a puncher, so punchers don't really absorb that much. When you can't punch and you box, you take more hits, and so I was fortunate in that way. And listen,
Well, Gerry, take this maybe as, and I'm not a boxing expert by any measure, but some people said that had you also, as you mentioned, went long distance and went with tougher opponents. I got to be honest, some people do question before the Larry Holmes fight the quality of the opponents that you was facing.
right.
Could have really helped you if you had tougher fight. I think in that era you had Mike Weaver.
Mike Weaver's like there was talks about Mike Weaver and me fighting leading up to the Holmes fight, but the money wasn't the same.
Right.
And like I was not really privy to those things. When you have a manager, you just do your part. And looking back on it, I tell the guys, no, you pay attention. You take your contract to the commission. You tell them to break it down for you. You tell them what you're signing. You got to become aware of what's going on. And, so that's, a mistake on that part. But, yes, I did need fighters. But like I said in the beginning, Don King owned those guys, and he did not want me to gain the experience to be able to maybe beat Larry Holmes, because if I beat Larry Holmes, Don King was out of the picture.
Yeah.
He didn't have any rights to me. But, and plus, and I want to tell you too, the money was so big that my management didn't want it either.
Yeah.
They wanted to get that fight to make the big payday. And so, listen.
Yeah, but I think even if, let's say, going into the fight, if you would have fought, let's say, an average fighter that clearly you were capable of defeating, I know anything could happen in boxing. So obviously, if you take a big fight against Mike Weaver, that could be a risk. But just an average fighter, just to get you a little, it was a 13-month gap between your fight from Ken Norton to Larry Holmes. That's a long period of time to go without.
Well, what you don't realize, what happened was I tore my rotator cuff, and we went to NYU and saw the best doctors, and they told me that they couldn't sew it up, and that I had to do therapy. So I had some downtime from that.
Okay.
And obviously the shoulder didn't get to be 100% again, and that was a factor as well in the fight. But listen, stuff happens. It's not like it's a perfect scenario all the times. There's always something goes wrong. There's always a wrench stick. It's I work with young men and women, and you address certain problems and you dress them up. And sometimes when you come from a dysfunctional background, as I did, when you just get about ready, you have a tendency of taking a rock and throwing it into the motor because you don't really believe in yourself. And those are the things we need to address. Those are the things that we have to, turn around so these guys can go clear-minded into the fight and be the best they can be. And unfortunately, life is not that way. That, you have certain, things in your background that affect your ability.
And again, Stan, I don't know if you have any questions or anything you want to add to the conversation.
He better have something to say, bro.
Say something.
I'm going to come over there, bro. Where's my music? I love that music.
Yeah, that's Jay Hogarth, and great album. JayHogarth.com. No, I'm listening. It's just brilliant. And, the viewers are saying the same thing, great guest. Watch all of the fights back in the day. This Bill Costin. And, Bill's got a huge boxing collection, and he's part of it. So, this is...
It's a great game today, guys.
Yeah.
It lost speed. It went down. It shut down. Now it's up again. And we got great champions over in Europe, in America. We're coming back and forth. It's like a big pool right now. And just like I said, download ESPN Boxing or Boxing Scene and follow the upcoming fights and take a look at them. You'll become fans back in the picture, and they're good stories.
Right. Well, this might have to be a great way to end this particular segment. I mean, I had a great time. You make this job real easy because you're such a talkative, fun person. It really didn't seem like it was a challenge, but I thought you brought a lot of deep personal issues to your life and also to the boxing sport that people may not have been aware of. And truthfully, I think you have to go down as a great fighter. I mean, go ahead.
You know what, Jonathan? I'm like I said, I had a great time during that period. I also have a book out, by the way, called Gentleman Gerry, a Contender in the Ring and a Champion in Recovery. It's out, been out since before the pandemic. But we just passed through. We're moving on to the next. I want to be close to my God and be available for the next thing that comes my way. And I've been blessed to put down the drink and put down the drugs and clean up my act and become aware, explore myself and where I went wrong, straighten those areas out and move forward and pass that information on to the next person that's in need.
Amen.
And that's my hope and that's my dream and that's what I get a chance to do every day. I mean, listen, I was talking to somebody. I recently had a little cancer scare, prostate, early stages. It was just like 5 radiation shots, and it went from 6.8 to 3.1. And this woman I was speaking to, a therapist, said, "Tell me what your week looks like." I said, "Well, I teach boxing. I go to a at-risk kids home. I'm on the radio twice a week, Sirius XM channel 156." Mondays and Fridays from 12 to 2. I make appearances and I go there. I give everybody a hard time in a funny kind of way. They pay me and say, "Hey, can you come back next year?" She said to me, "Gerry, that sounds like a good life." And I said, "You're right. I got a great life." So I get to go out and touch people every day through humor and laughter. And, I have a couple of people who are sick now, struggling. And, we try and keep them picked up and just move on to tomorrow and do the next right thing tomorrow and the next day. And that's what I've learned. I didn't get a great upbringing. Had a great mother. My father was an alcoholic and abusive, but my children have never seen any of that. They've never seen me drink. I love them every day. And I'm just going to tell them that I was on the phone with you guys. Said, "I can't wait to get you in person." Right. See this here?
Yeah.
That's what's going to go on, bro.
Exactly. Well, Gerry, it was a pleasure meeting you, interviewing you, and hopefully this could build some type of relations. You seem like you're a person that would be really interested to meet in person. And I was glad that you was able to accept the invitation to be a guest this morning on Morning Talk Live with J. Stan McCauley Talk Show. And tell your good friend Larry Holmes, I think he's one of the greatest heavyweight champions of all time.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And Stan, to you too. Thanks for having me on your show. And anytime you need me, if there's a fight coming up, you want me to break it down for you, all right, I'll do it.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. It's a pleasure meeting you. Godspeed and continued success.
All right.
Thank you.
Take care, Jerry.
Bye now. See you guys.
All right.
Bye-bye. Wow, fabulous.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
I feel like I hit a home run on this show.
Yeah. Grand Slam.
Grand Slam.
Grand Slam.
He is a real down-to-earth, fun person to talk to.
A knockout in 10 seconds. Ding, ding. Down.
Right. Yeah, his popularity, man, was at an all-time high up into that Larry Holmes fight. He was on Sports Illustrated, other magazine, TV commercials. He was just really very popular at that time, and he got his life back on track is the most important thing.
Absolutely.
And I just had a feeling that he would be a good guest to have, and I didn't give up working with him. And definitely, boxing. We've had a few people in the boxing industry on this show. Moochie, Marlon Starling, Rick Koletsky. We went to his home where he had the boxing.
That's right.
Museum.
The museum. He's got a whole museum in his house.
Exactly.
That was fascinating.
That was fascinating.
That
exactly.
was fascinating.
So Truthfully, I'm not into the boxing game like I used to be. Maybe I can get back into it. Maybe now, pay more attention and try to get a little bit more back into the boxing game. But it was really popular back in the days, those big fights. People always knew Larry Holmes, Mike Tyson, Lennox Lewis, Evander Holyfield. Way before them, though. I mean, you go from Joe Louis, Jack Johnson, Rocky Marciano, the heavyweights. I mean, them are some big, big names you talking about, Stan. I mean, people say Muhammad Ali is the greatest. Some people might say Joe Louis. Jack Johnson was no joke. That guy was a hard hitter. Mike Tyson could have been, Stan, had he kept winning. He just got beat at some. I think the James Buster Douglas fight made him look vulnerable, but he was like Sonny Liston. He was just dominating. At one point, Mike Tyson, he was saying, "Could this guy ever lose?" So,
well, eventually you lose.
Eventually,
yeah. That's Big Bill.
Oh, that's Bill Costin. Okay.
Yeah, this is at Larry Holmes' restaurant.
Oh, so he knows Larry Holmes.
Well,
he's at the restaurant.
He's at the restaurant with him.
Is that Larry Holmes in the white?
Let's see. We can zoom in here. Where's my zoomer inner button?
Because Bill is in the middle.
Yeah. Well, we'll do the old school zoom in.
It look like it's a Rolls Royce. I think it is Larry Holmes, though. If you can zoom it up a little bit. But it looks like it would be Larry Holmes.
Yeah.
Because, Larry Holmes, he bought a lot of businesses in Eastern Pennsylvania. Well, he put that town on the map to do that. Yeah, it looks like that is Larry Holmes, though, to be honest.
There you go.
Okay. I don't know who the other person is on the left, but that looked like that's Larry Holmes in the white. And obviously Bill Costin about, 6'6". So Larry Holmes is 6'3", and it looked like Costin have him about 3 inches. So that looks like about correct.
All right.
Okay.
Well, we will take a short break. We'll be right back. It's Morning Talk. J.C. McCauley along with Talk Champion Jonathan Small.
Okay.
Stick and stay.
Hey, Hartford, Connecticut, I'm talking to you. We got to get out and vote. Vote for Stan McCauley. It's our time. We got to rise up and take it back. Vote for Stan McCauley.
Vote for Stan. You gotta vote for Stan McCauley. Vote for Stan. Vote for Stan. Oh yeah.
It's more than politics than just what your social covers. And it ain't somewhere written down in bold letters. Don't just take my word for it, do your research. Think of your future, look at your bigger picture. Shooting tie, clean up, unity for the righteous. Plotting on action, hands on access. With a light source vision, door to door knocking. Guerrilla style marketing, brainstorm as a collective. Real neighborhood suggestions. Only we know what it is where we living. To make real life decisions. Move on facts, make it manifest back.
You gotta vote for Stan McCauley. Vote for Stan. Vote for Stan. Vote for Stan. Oh yeah. Look at your city. Stop. Take a look around. Is opportunity flow into your house? Are you working? Wait, can you save some money? And is your neighborhood safe? Or is it a homicide every night? Ooh, Stan McCauley. Vote we can change it, yeah.
Hi, my name is Marlon E. Styler Sr. Many of you may know me as the two-time welterweight champion of the world. I'm here to tell you that Democrat J. Stan McCauley, as our next mayor, will fight for you until the last bell. Help me throw a knockout punch. Go out and vote for Stan the Man.
My name is J. Stan McCauley, and I approve this message.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. All right. Morning talk. Where else can you have this much fun?
Definitely a fun morning to start off the work week.
Oh, yeah.
And everything.
Mm-hmm. I get nothing but great reviews for this album.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just brilliant.
Right.
Jay Hogarth in the background. Morning talk. Let's listen to a little bit of Jay Hogarth for a hot second. A hot second. And we'll continue on. Deluge. J. Hogarth, Deluge, Van Gelder Studios. Stick and stay, we'll be right back.
How do you define evil? Is evil the pedophile school administrator or taxation without representation? Is it the gatekeeping community leaders who sell out the very people they were elected to fight for? Or is evil the politician that puts out lies and takes in cash? However you may classify evil, having to choose the lesser of two evils still leaves you with evil. Nowhere does this rule apply more than during an election for mayor. Choosing a candidate who is the lesser of two evils still leaves you with evil. No wonder so many people don't vote. It's time for the constituents to flip the script and vote for a mayor you can trust. My name is Jason McCauley. I am an independent thinker, and I approve this message. I'm asking you for your vote on Tuesday, September the 12th, 2023, in the Democratic Party primary election for mayor for the city of Hartford. I, like you, am an independent thinker. So let's sit down and talk about my path to victory and why my 5-point plan for Hartford will work. Stop listening to the uninformed evil interests that tell you I can't win. For more information, visit McCauleyformayor.com. Have the courage to vote your conscience. Vote for the name you trust and know. Vote McCauley for mayor.
Hi.
My name's J.C. McCauley.
I'm Nyesha McCauley, and you're watching AccessTV.org.
Oh, yeah. Welcome back. So what's on? What else is on your mind, Jonathan?
Well, truthfully, Stan, this show could have been about welfare reform, but I couldn't pass up the opportunity to have Gerry Cooney, so I put that particular show on the back burner. But I'd rather really I'd rather have the guests before I really get into a deep conversation with you, but I still want to get your opinion. You think the welfare reform or the welfare system is the way it needs to be operating under? Do you like welfare reform? Do you think it's a big industry, a big problem in society? I mean, what's your views on it?
I think you need to have safety net for people who, have issues. Any system can be exploited. And so I don't think that people are necessarily against quote unquote welfare. They're against exploitation and abuse of the welfare system.
So that's up to the individual then, or is it the system itself, how it's set up?
You have to be safeguards in any system. So it's not up to the individual. People take the path of least resistance. If you can get something for nothing, most people will take it.
Take it, yeah.
So, it's if I need $50 from Jonathan, it's not up to me. It's up to you to give it to me. Now, if I ask you for $50, you say, "Oh, all right." And then I say, "Well, Jonathan, I'm running a little short. I could use another $50 this week if you could spot me." You say, "Okay." And next week comes, I said, "Well, Jonathan, I need a little bit of money for my gas."
Yes.
You think you hit me up with 50? Well, you owe me 100. I know, but times are tight, and you got it. Can you hand me another 50? Sure, I got you. All right. Then I come again. You say, "Well, as long as you need money, Stan, I got you." I said, "Oh, okay." Every week I'm there for the 50.
All right.
Now that's abusing the system. It's abusing your generosity. But as long as you're willing to hand it out, Stan is there with his little hands out. So Stan quits his job. He figures he don't need nothing. I got Jonathan.
All right.
That's what I mean. Now, so you have to be the one that puts some controls in place to say, "Well, Stan, look, you're taking advantage of the system here. I don't mind helping people out, but clearly this is way beyond me helping you out." And I think government has to do the same thing when it comes to welfare. Everyone will say they need something. As long as they have a legitimate need and the resources are there, I don't see why there can't be some help.
Right. Well, like I think the key you said was safety net. Help you to get back on your feet. Or if you're in dire need, let's not turn our back on people. But I think the whole welfare system, how it has, some people say it destroyed a lot of people in the process. It took the man out of the home. People say marriage was more stronger. It's a lot. This is a big industry and a big topic and a big part of our society, whether people realize it or not. The history of welfare played a role in a lot of factors. I guess you can say more bad than good, but if it still keeps people from starving, keeps people afloat, I guess that's a good thing. But the low expectations, some people say what it did, the more children you have, the more entitlements you have. I mean, everything is taken care of for you. I think the big part about going forward to the future beyond welfare reform is whether universal basic income going to replace welfare.
Well, it's an interesting term, universal basic income, and you attaching it to replace, and then welfare. So it sounds like welfare.
It does. Well, it's
like replacing welfare.
Well, I said that
if it's a way to help people as we move forward with less individuals needing to work, that may be a means to an end. But if welfare did all the things you say it did, then why would you give it another name?
Well, what I want to realize is universal basic income like taxpayers' dollars? Because welfare comes from taxpayers.
Everything is taxpayers' dollars.
So it's a taxpayers' dollar system.
Right. The money used to help put buildings downtown on the government dime is taxpayer dollars too. It's all taxpayer dollars.
Right.
Some taxpayer dollars are easier, so there's more. How shall we say, socially acceptable to spend some taxpayer dollars on one thing and not on another.
Well, I think what universal basic income, talking to Mr. Knight up in Boston, has always said is that people will be responsible now once you get this certain amount of money to pay for all of your needs. He doesn't recommend having food stamps. Give people enough money, like $2,000 a month, believe it or not, if that could cover everything. Then you cut out Section 8, you cut out welfare. I don't even know about Medicaid. I don't know if he's in favor of cutting that out. Maybe you pay for your own health insurance out of that money. And if you make money,
so what happens if you spend all your money and you wind up broke and hungry?
Well, then that's on you now. It's like your paycheck.
No, that's where that's the safety net. See. If you're broke and hungry, you're going to eat. And if you can't get the money to go get the food, then you're going to take the food from someone else.
Well, then we just have to deal with that consequence. Then that's where the law enforcement, you just can't allow crime. You just can't,
you're going to just lock everybody up? Shoot them?
But that's like saying everybody now, I mean, anybody can say they've misused their money and they can need more money and they don't turn to crime.
There you go. You're making my point. A safety net is there to stop. So the people that fall through the cracks, there are always going to be people who fall through the cracks. Everyone is not going to be at their A game. There are all kinds of reasons and rationale and things that happen. So what can we do to help them? I think universal basic income is part of a broader conversation. I don't think it's a conversation linked to welfare or what do we replace welfare with. I think universal basic income comes into play as you do long-term forecasting on how you deal with individuals that have been displaced by new technologies that are going to put them out of work, AI being one of them. People who do the long-term societal planning should be able to see these trends emerging. They don't sneak up on you out of the blue. They sneak up on people out of the blue because the people who are supposedly in charge of stuff don't know what they're doing. They're incompetent or they just have a lack of vision.
Right.
So if we have, let's say we have let's take entertainment. The writers are on strike.
I heard about that.
And the actors are now on strike.
Right.
Okay. Well, quite frankly, you don't need writers or actors anymore. So people are wrapping their heads around that.
Mm.
We have enough digitized images of almost everybody that's ever acted that you can load those images into a computer base and you can generate them doing whatever you want in any setting that you want.
All right.
And with artificial intelligence capacity to write scripts, you could load the data in and come up with a motion picture that would be a blockbuster and need no human beings. So it will put a lot of those people out of work because they're not necessary. You may keep them on board because you want to be keep people in the mix, but they're not necessary.
Right.
So people go from making, $2-3 million a year, $60 million a year, to like 60,000, which is not a bad salary.
No, it's not.
But it's a big drop. But it's going to put a lot of people out of work. Actors could get paid for the use of their images. Maybe writers get paid for the use of themes that they helped contribute to, but they're not going to make the big money.
Right.
But there are going to be thousands of people just out of work. All of the line people, folk that gaffers, folk that they're not necessary. Right. Once upon a time, it would take how many people? It would take a whole production crew to do this program. I can do it by myself. I don't need anyone. I don't need camera people. I don't need audio people. I don't need a technical director. Those people all out work. So what happens if you have AI driving trucks? Robots stocking, taking stuff off of trucks, putting it into warehouses. And so all of these people now not working need to have some sort of basic universal income so that the society doesn't implode. And then you shift what happens with people. You lead your best life. You contribute to the society with your intellectual capacity, and you're an artist, so you do art. If you're a musician, you play music. If you're a writer, you write. If you like to hunt, you hunt. You're more like a Star Trek kind of a universe where money isn't the driving force. These are big time questions that people think about. To me, that's where universal basic income comes in.
Well, again, it's not so much you're not in favor of replacing welfare reform.
No, I'm not saying I'm not in. Welfare reform was a methodology to reform welfare.
Right.
So we need a safety gap for people, a safety net. That's necessary. I don't care what you call it. People can't be left out to starve and be exposed to the elements. And that's what it's designed to do.
Well, here's the argument right now, because this is broadening beyond just the United States. You're finding this as a world war trend. People are saying a lot of people just don't want to work anymore. Certainly they don't want to work the low-paying jobs where they see no future, and they're utilizing their time and labor for very little compensation. So if I can decide I don't need to work, I don't want to work, and the government is available to provide some assistance.
It's not available. That's not the same thing as providing a safety net.
No, but I'm saying this is kind of how the damage part became about welfare. After a while, the safety net was the legitimate starting point. Then all of a sudden, you could be eligible for welfare just because you're out of work. You meet the particular guidelines. Welfare reform, I think, kind of took the caseloads and reduced it a lot. The requirements became a lot stricter.
Right, so you're going to have a guest on about welfare reform?
I'm working on it.
All right. So
You know?
why don't we wait
Why don't
till
we just
after
wait
you
to
have the guest? Because welfare reform is very old, John. This is not like something new. I mean, go back to the Clinton administration.
Yeah, but the welfare reform is going to be part of the whole history of welfare. The topic is not going to be just welfare reform.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be part of the topic to go along with the history and where we're at today with welfare.
Right.
Where's the trend going at? That's why I don't really want to get into this
Mm-hmm.
without bringing the expert on at some point. But I just want to kind of get your opinion overall. How do you view welfare? But you saying it's a safety that we need.
I think welfare is a safety net. I think that we are always going to have a safety net. You could call it whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
The churches were a safety net for many, many decades. When people needed help, they went to the church.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't call it welfare. They just called it being a good neighbor.
Right.
Helping your neighbors out.
Mm-hmm.
All right. But at some point, any system can be abused. And so we're not talking about welfare. In my never to be humble opinion, the conversation for me is never one about welfare. It's about abusing the safety net.
Right.
And that's what needs to stop. We're not ending. Well, I don't think welfare needs to be ended. What needs to be ended is the abuse of it.
Yeah.
And that is not difficult.
Although Mr. Knight will say he thinks welfare needs to be replaced with universal basic income, which would be like ending welfare.
And it just call it by another name. That's all he's doing. Instead of giving people food stamps, you give them cash. What's the difference?
You give them cash, but now you're right.
You're responsible with food stamps too.
Yeah, you just put the food stamps money in your debit, in your account. So
food
right.
stamp, debit card, cash.
Right.
All it does is it's a medium to exchange this for food.
Right. Well, again, it's like you could say turning a social structure stronger. People you don't have to worry about working.
No.
You don't buy it?
No. The lazy bum need to get up off their behind and work.
Well, that's what I'm going to get to the root of the problem.
Right.
But
You don't want to work. You don't eat.
But that's what universal basic income can implement. Just you don't need to work.
No.
You'll be entitled for $2,000 a month.
I can't wait. Not entitled. I can't wait until you bring your expert here.
Mm-hmm.
There's a difference when the whole society is not working. There's a paradigm shift. It's not because people don't want to work.
Right.
It's that people no longer feel they need to work.
Right.
For evil, greedy bosses who exploit the worker.
Right.
That's what people are saying no to. And they don't need to. It's not that they're doing that and starving. They don't need the money.
Well, I will question. I mean, I know you're aware of what goes on in the city, particularly a city that you're looking to run for public office, and it's not probably going to draw a big attention now because it's summertime. But I noticed coming home from the airport at nighttime, driving through certain parts of the city, I'm monitoring people sitting and even sleeping on bus stops, and I don't think they're just out there just for the sake of being out there. I think they have no place to live and they have no way to function. And nobody's going to freeze to death in the summertime. I suggested last week, you say we don't need more surveys and we don't need more meetings. But I think people in the city needs to be accounted of how they're functioning. Does a person have a place to live? How much income is a person making? What type of health care coverage does a person have?
How does that help the people that are sleeping at the bus stop?
Well, they need to be counted too. And then how do you figure out once you know where this person is at? How do you get this person into
where he's
place
at?
to
You
live?
can see where he's at. He's sleeping on the bus. Brother.
But there's no even a sense of I don't want to say compassion, but they're not counted really.
Well, no. See, to me, it's not that deep. I come out of City Hall, 550 Main Street, and I look across the street, I see the MDC.
Mm-hmm.
And on the corner of the MDC, across the street from the Cornerstone Deli,
right,
there's a man sleeping over there.
Right.
Now, many of the people watching this know about the man or the people that sleep over there. You walk over there, can I help you? We don't need to do a survey. What is your plight And how can we be of service to you? What do you need? Now, he obviously needs something, or she. They obviously need help. They may have a mental deficiency. They could be an ex-veteran that's suffering from some post-traumatic stress from the war that they went to help fight. They could be displaced from Simsbury because they got into a domestic argument with their family member, were kicked out of their house because they had too much to drink or too much to drug. And now they've fallen through the cracks. That's the safety net that we have to have. We don't have to have studies. We need to have the compassion to help them.
Yeah, but you're saying you just go to people where you see a problem. You don't need to monitor it or survey. You just need to go to the person and find out what they need. That's the better solution than figuring out how many people in your city.
Yeah, than surveying 120,000 that are doing fine.
Well, I don't know if they're doing fine, but I think you need to know exactly what's going on. Who, if a person.
I'm old school, Jonathan.
Yeah.
I'm just old school. That could be a defect in my personality matrix, but I'm old school. I figure if a person needs help, the burden of responsibility for the help is on the person that needs it. You need to ask for help. There can be no expectation on the part of everybody. The government is going to now come looking, knocking on every door, trying to find out what your need is, and then somehow supply that need. That is not the purpose of government.
Well, Stan, first of all, people are flooded to your social service agencies every day. So people are seeking help.
And those people can get help.
But even with that, you're still going to have people that you'll see, for whatever reason, can't get down there for that particular day, or they got other issues, so they're just going to hang out for the whole day. But so you might be getting a little mixed up when I'm saying a survey, just to count numbers and leave it at that. You want to know. See, in this country, everything is about what's on paper, not just what you see. Everything has to be accounted for. Registered voters. Okay, we can't assume how many. You got to know exactly how many registered voters are on paper. You got to everything. The Department of Labor, everything got to. You unemployed, but if you don't sign, if you don't register or file claims, since I guess statistically you're not counted as an unemployed person.
And the Department of Labor doesn't come to you and see whether or not you're employed. You go to them. That's all I'm saying.
Right. Well, maybe
the burden is on the person that needs the help.
Right.
Bears the burden of seeking out the help. If you see someone in need of help, then the burden is shifted to you to help them. That does not mean you go on a crusade invading people's homes to find out whether or not they need help.
Well, you need to get an actual count. I mean, regardless whether it solves the problem or not. How many people are really homeless in your city? How many people are really unemployed in your city?
We differ.
Yeah.
We differ.
Well, this country goes on paper. So whether you like it or don't like it, you can say the burden is on the individual. He needs to go to the unemployment office to be saying, I'm out of work.
Does he want assistance? Does he need assistance?
He may feel whatever. If he needs assistance or he doesn't need assistance, I'm saying an actual number is still part of the process. So how many people are really unemployed? How many people are really below poverty in your city?
Jonathan,
on paper,
those statistics are readily available. We know what the unemployment rate is. We know what the homeless rate is.
You say they're readily available, but I'm saying you have to be counted.
You may not know what that number is, but that number is readily available.
So it's an actual accurate account.
The accuracy of the number is obviously always up for debate. I'm not the one that gets caught up into that causality loop where every year or every 6 months someone else comes along that doesn't know what the number is, and therefore we somehow stop time and motion because they want to know what that number is. To what end?
Well, I think what people look at is if the unemployment number that's on paper, let's say 20%, just as a figure of speech. But if you actually count how many people who are not filing unemployment claims,
maybe it's 30%.
30, 40, 50%.
Now, what are you going to do about it?
Well, that's the harder part. I gotta be honest.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm one of those path to impact people.
Yeah.
All right. I'm interested in what? Solutions.
You want solutions.
The impact. Where does your plan or policy impact the person that needs the help? The guy that needs the help is sleeping on the corner of the MDC building.
Mm-hmm. Right.
We don't need a data study.
All right.
That's the study, the theory, the process, the policy by the policy wonks and makers are, in my opinion, necessary. But beyond the necessity of doing certain things to come up with solutions, these people are more caught up with the details of how it went wrong and what's wrong than they are of actually helping the guy. Help this guy. And if your policy is going to wind up impacting him, fine. Other than that, to what end?
The only thing I will say, what people have in place to help the person that they will say is always available is, and I've said this before on your show, is the 211 system. You know, if you're homeless and you have no place to live, the first thing you're going to be told is you got to sign or call the 211 system. From that system, then they'll try to get you into a homeless shelter.
That's the system they have set up. Could it be better? Perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
Can it be changed? Absolutely.
Right.
Can it be made better? Where there's a will, there's a way. So, systems that are in place are put in place by human beings. The systems sometimes work. They sometimes fail. When a system fails, you make the adjustment to make it better. You don't double down on failure. You make it better. Now, everyone doesn't have a phone so they can call 211. So how do you deal with them? There's still a responsibility on the person that needs the help to do the reaching out for help. We understand that there are always going to be those people who can't help themselves. So we have systems in place to take care of that. We have systems right now in the city of Hartford where we have people who do outreach, who go out in the cold, to look under the bridges, to look in the train tunnels for the people who are in dire straits.
Right.
To make sure they're not sleeping in the sewers or the tunnels or under in the Park River. There are systems in place, Jonathan.
Yeah, but that's more done, really, to be honest, in the winter. I'm not saying it's not done now,
It's
but that's
done
more of
all
an urgency.
the time, and one's being unaware of it does not mean it's not being done. That's all.
Well, either the system is flooded with a caseload that they can't keep up with everybody. You keep coming back and saying it's up to the individual. Who's to say people every day is not begging for help? Who's not begging for $1? Because I see it every single day.
Jonathan,
so,
your view of the world is your view of the world, as is mine. But it's not the total view of things.
I'm not saying that. But I'm saying for the problems that exist, you say it's up to the individual to seek help. That's what I'm going to focus on now. I'm not talking about what there's great things going on in the city or whether we got development. I understand we have that. But for the problems that you're saying people are confronted with, it's up to them to seek help. Sometimes people are seeking help maybe the wrong way.
Well, if somebody's seeking help the wrong way, Jonathan, then who bears the burden of helping that person? You're saying government does. That's
no, I
didn't
didn't say that. I didn't say government. I said there needs to be a survey and a better accurate account to know what you have on paper, because that's how this country operates. They operate with statistical data first. Whether we like this or don't like it, Stan.
No. I push back on that with everything I have. I push back. When I become the mayor, I will push back. Those things I find extremely frustrating when people don't implement the solution because they need the data.
Yeah.
They need the data. The data wonks are the biggest impediment to success. Are those people who are hindered by data. They get analysis paralysis. Most times, data wonks are afraid of bearing the responsibility of making a mistake in implementing the fix. If it doesn't work, do it a different way.
Yeah.
But they spend time working on the data. Meanwhile, if it's a school system, you got people in 8 grades, from kindergarten to 8th grade, that fall between the cracks and fail because you're waiting for the data to come.
Yeah. Well, when I say, I'm not saying, Stan, people can't be helped without going through the system. Because obviously, if you have a homeless population, you said before, you can tell, and I don't know if anybody's going to do this, invite somebody that you don't know into your home or try to figure out how can you find this person a place to live. I'm not saying you can't do that, but I'm saying the norm is, in most cases, you're homeless, you have no fixed address, you have to call the 211 system as the starting point.
Mm-hmm.
You try going to whatever type of housing authority, agency, or whatever, and it's just unrealistic because if you don't have proper proof of income,
there's a difference between, and I think we need to drill down on the terms we're using. The homeless and the person that wants a better living situation that applies for an apartment, but they don't necessarily have all the things that those people need. They're not homeless.
Yeah.
When you talk about homelessness, I'm thinking what traditionally homelessness means. Not you can't find an apartment for something that you can afford in a place where you want to be. Mm-hmm. There may very well be affordable apartments in the next town over.
Yeah.
But you don't want to live in that town. So somehow everything in this town has to stop to make apartment for this group of people. Now, those are all legitimate debates, but these people are arguing over where they should stay and the types of amenities they have. And the person I'm thinking about homeless is the guy sitting across the street on the MDC corner.
Well, it's homeless in the substandard housing,
Then call them what they are.
Yeah. Well, I like to call the names. I mean, sometimes it might getting mixed up a little bit and you just assume I'm talking about one thing and then there's other factors that plays into the role. 147,000 people in the city of Jacksonville, Florida is on a waiting list for housing.
That is bad. And you like the national look. I'm not interested in Jacksonville's homeless. I'm interested in Hartford's homeless.
Yeah, well, this is not homeless. It's just people that's on a waiting list.
Or waiting list.
Yeah, okay.
I'm interested in that in Hartford. I live in Hartford.
Mm-hmm.
We are in Hartford. We're not in Jacksonville. I'm not out looking for issues. I'm looking to solve what we have in Hartford.
Right. Well, I said again, I mean, you don't buy into Thurman Milner's approach that he had 20 years ago about the master plan as you feel we can do things differently. We don't need to get people together. I think if...
No. No, you said Thurman wanted to have an assessment of all of the needs of all of the people so that he could put together his master plan.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have a plan. I have a master plan.
Okay.
And I have nothing wrong. One of the main key points of my thing is a convocation for all city employees so that we can get on one accord. I don't have a problem with particular elements of what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It's key things that you keep saying that I'm taking issue with.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, man. I haven't spoken to Thurman in years, to be honest. Hopefully he's doing all right.
And that was a long time ago, what you're talking
about. Yeah. But I'm pretty sure, knowing Thurman Milner the way I think I know him, I think if you ask him today, because, he started off as mayor, you want to focus in Hartford in 1981.
Mm-hmm.
He had views of what needed to be done. Of course, he didn't have any it wasn't a strong mayor form of government.
Right.
So it was like a figure.
Totally different
type
of administration.
But if you want to stay locally and just focus, and that makes sense as a person running for mayor, you got to stay focused on what you're trying to accomplish. It's not so much the problems are overwhelming. It's just that I think it's like you're taking what I'm, just my opinion, how I'm seeing the city operate, it's like you're taking one step forward and two steps backwards for many different approaches, from housing, from economic development. I mean, you'll have the mayor of Hartford come on saying there's a new development housing structure in one part of the city. That's a sign that you're moving forward. Then you go to another part of the city, you see substandard housing, neglect, somebody gets killed in a robbery attempt. It's like you're taking for every one step forward. I'm pitching.
It depends on who you're talking to and through what eyes you see. Someone getting held up and robbed is a horrible thing. But in a city of 120,000, it is not a step backwards.
Okay. It's not taking. Okay, so it's not a step backwards.
Right.
Okay.
We can't move the whole city backwards because of a singular crime. If it's all you folk. Now, if you're the one that got robbed.
I think you would look at it a little differently.
For you.
Yeah.
Your life is taking a step backwards. All right. But that's not the whole city. The whole city isn't moving backwards.
Well, I said is certain parts of the city you'll see a lot of development and good things taking place.
So, can the whole city rise together? Yeah.
Okay.
Will there be things that happen that benefit one group or person over another? Always. Because everybody can't get what everyone else has.
Right.
Scarcity of resource. But there can be a much more equitable distribution of those resources and how things happen. And if one communicates what's going on instead of working in silos and vacuums, you would have a much more harmonious implementation of those things. A lot of the stuff that you see is very, 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 very intentional.
You said that, yeah.
So, you have to be just as intentional on doing things differently. There are groups of people within this city that benefit. In my opinion, they benefit at the expense of other groups. It does not have to be that way.
Yeah.
It just is that way. And as long as the leadership is what it is, it will continue to be that way. It doesn't have to be that way.
Well, I'm not impressed and engaged in everything, so I'm just wondering, over the past week with all of the flooding in the city of Hartford, how have people fared up? I didn't hear anything on the news about any
people whose houses were flooded fared very poorly.
This past week?
Yes.
Okay, so I didn't even hear anything about Hartford.
Yeah, but that's what happens when you get tremendous amounts of water.
Right.
And it's flooding season. Okay, so there's flooding all over the region.
The region, yeah.
It's not like just here in Hartford.
But you want to focus on the city. You say you live here, so that's why I'm bringing up here.
Well, I bring that up because, there's flooding, but it's the same flooding in the same area that happens every time it rains torrential downpours. Until the problem is fixed, every time it rains, expect that problem to come up.
Right.
So it's not like something new. We're not moving backwards. What we're not doing is moving forward.
Right.
Some of the flooding can be fixed on the short term if people would get their behinds in gear and get their heads out of their behinds. Things could move a lot better.
The people you try and get their heads out of their behind, what, the homeowners, the business owners?
Not necessarily homeowners and business owners, key decision makers who stand at the gateway of fixes because they need data.
Yeah.
And before they can actually fix the problem, they need proof that that's actually the problem.
Well, I was told by someone from MDC is they got to wait for the money to come in. I mean, it's been 3 weeks now since that press conference, and if the money hasn't come through yet, we can't do nothing.
As it relates to money, yeah. But the problem has existed before the fix on this particular thing with the release of monies from the Clean Water Fund. The stuff that's happening to Max Katari it's just pure incompetence.
It's unavoidable, or it could have
been. No. Or quite the contrary. It's extremely avoidable. But no one will fix the problem.
Right.
Max can't fix the problem. There are certain entities within the city that could fix the problem, but they don't fix the problem. But then you have a nice press conference that makes it seem like the problem isn't the problem that it really is, so that you obfuscate and deflect. So Max has done the only thing that he could reasonably do. He's leaving.
Yeah.
Because he can't afford $1 million loss every time this problem happens.
Right. And then to get things twisted around, someone from MDC saying, well, he wants to build a shopping center.
That has nothing to do with the
That's what I'm
problem.
saying. Instead of focusing on exactly what he is dealing with, the person is twisting everything around, saying, well, he really wants to build a shopping center. It's not out.
That has nothing to do.
Then I was told
with the flooding.
He needs to go to the city of Hartford. See, it's always, again, you don't.
This is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
This is what I'm talking about.
It's like passing the buck theory. Well,
it passes the buck because nobody is. This is, and I concur with Max 101%. This is incompetence at its finest.
Mm-hmm.
At its finest.
Yeah. And then you don't expect another business owner to want to go through the same thing. So now Max on Main leaves that particular area. Somebody could always still come back and open.
Nobody's going to come back and
open
a hardware store.
Or any other business. But again, when you get these type of things that people see how the city is being run, see, again, it's not about, like you're saying, one step forward or two step backwards. It's just a approach where you've always said on different programs, not that the city is being mismanaged, it's not being managed at all. I mean, those are some of your words that you said recently.
That is true. I believe that. I've believed that for many years.
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah. Well, some people see, and it gets into another thing. Some people have the tolerances to deal with these things, and someone like you and other people don't.
What do you mean, don't?
To accept the type of things that goes on.
There's no reason to accept the things that are going on. Mm-hmm. There's no excuse for them happening.
Mm-hmm.
To accept what you see going on is to be. I don't consider that tolerance. I consider that, go along to get along, or don't want to make any waves, or keep your mouth shut, or you could lose your job, or someone will say something to you. You mind your business. That kind of stuff has to stop.
Mm-hmm.
So I won't tolerate that kind of stuff.
Well, it's been 3 weeks since the press conference. I'm not saying, like you say the problem is not.
The press conference is specific. That press conference that you're referring to on Granby Street
290
is a press conference about something that is in play, that will happen, that will manifest, and there will be a result from it.
Mm-hmm.
That press conference has nothing to do with the other stuff that's going on.
Well, the issues, you're saying every time it rains, you're going to have flooding. So the problem that you have more of with is the sewage getting mixed up in the flooding.
Absolutely. Right. There should be no sewage in the flooding. Not this regular stuff. Absolutely not. Sewage is happening because it's flowing back into people's houses.
Right.
And that's something that could be resolved. It could have been resolved a long time ago.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's just try to stay optimistic and believe that the money is going to get appropriated.
The money has been appropriated.
It's going to get down to where it needs to get to.
Right.
The work is going to get done if it hasn't already gotten started. And you're going to monitor and make sure how things are operating under.
Right. That's like getting your third floor painted.
Mm-hmm.
When we're talking about, your basement flooding.
Mm-hmm.
They're two separate issues.
Mm-hmm.
The fix that came out of the negotiations for which they had the press conference on Granby Street.
Mm-hmm.
That's happening. That's a done deal. It will happen.
Right. Okay.
Right.
But don't expect every time, like you say, every time it's raining, you have a news saying, well, my home or this church got flooded. We got this problem.
The problem is still going to be there.
Right.
To the degree that people want to talk about it, highlight it, bring it up, that's between them and whoever else. But I mean, that problem is going to exist until it is fixed.
Right. Well, this is like a 2-year like 6 projects supposed to start this year for MDC working on.
I was over with Max, the comptroller, Sean Scanlon, Bridget Prince, Cynthia Jennings, Blue Hill Civic Association. A week ago, The time flies so fast, I don't know what's happening. And the basement got flooded. When you look at where the backwater valve is and the setup, it's easy to see why it gets flooded.
Mm-hmm.
And it is just as easy to fix.
All right.
There can be fixes to that.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is it just hasn't been fixed.
All right.
You fix that by the end of the week.
Mm-hmm.
That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about.
All right. I like the conversation, Stan, but are we over time? It's on 10 o'clock. I just want to make sure that, we're not.
We have 3 minutes.
We got 3 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, everybody would like, some people, like you say, in this gauge of you like to get results. You like to deal with things on an actionary approach. You don't need numbers and surveys. And,
No. You need numbers. You need surveys. You need the data.
Right.
You don't need to be paralyzed by it.
Right.
And you need to do the data analysis in a timely fashion so that the fix can be implemented. I will not tolerate data wonks getting in the way of fixes.
So
that's where I have no tolerance. I fire people who do that. They are incompetent and they are part of the problem. If you're not part of the solution when it comes to fixing something, then you are a problem. And if you work for me, I am under no obligation to keep incompetent people around.
Yeah. So again, we don't need, in your opinion, just to figure out how many people are sleeping on bus benches in front of MDC or church buildings, and just to say that we got things or people that's being ignored or other underlying issues that's not really being taken accountable. You don't think we just need we don't need any more data to say we got people who have no fixed address, no stability, mental substance abuse issues. We already know that from what you're saying.
We know that.
So we don't need no more accountability on paper. We just need to
Right. My mindset says, okay, push it to the limit. Let's assume that at every single bus stop we got somebody sleeping there, so that we can get through all of the data stuff. And let's focus on what we're gonna do about it.
All right.
See, when I ask a question, well, what are we gonna do about it? Then I hear crickets. I hear crickets. It's as though in order to not do anything, we need to do the research.
Well,
see, the research sounds to me like a rationale for not actually fixing the problem.
Well, see, short term, or however you want to look at it, all you're going to run against for the majority of these people is the 211 system. That's going to be what you're going to be told.
Well, if that's the 211 system is to log into maybe access to the fix. But I'm interested in fixing the problem. That's what I'm gonna tell my staff.
Well, I don't want to say
Fix
that. Well,
it.
I don't want to say without being an expert that the 211 system is part of the problem. But I just know if I'm freezing to death and I need a place to live, the 211 system, if there's a shelter or place available, is my only option. Then I guess I'm limited anyway, because look where I'm at. I'm sleeping on a bench, so I can't expect too much more. You could say open up the XL Center. Is that a good idea?
No.
No, you don't think that's a good idea?
No. We're not going to open up the XL Center for the homeless to sleep in.
Okay. So you don't think that's a good idea?
No. There are other things that can be done. We're going to put them in the XL Center.
Well, I just say it's a big enough building that could hold a lot of people. That's just one suggestion. But you don't think that that's a good idea?
I think that's disastrous. Wait till people start getting attacked in the nighttime.
You're right. That happened in New Orleans.
Yeah. That's not a good idea.
Okay.
It's an idea, but it's not a good idea.
It's not a good idea.
Particularly considering that we can find other means and do other things.
That's why dialogue is so important. To share what your opinion or what your approach is the better approach. Before you make a decision. All right, well, great opportunity that you gave me this morning, and let me try to find a guest for next Monday.
Well, I'm looking forward to next Monday, Jonathan. As always, great show.
Okay.
Special thanks to our guests.